It's a beautiful day today and we're reading about some more entitled parents. I don't want to say it's going to be a fun episode because the stuff we're going to read isn't very fun. It's more unbelievable than fun. So yeah, we're going to read some unbelievable stuff today and I hope you're ready for it. Thank you for all your support and I hope you have a wonderful time. Okay, so we're starting the episode with a BuzzFeed article that says 26 stories about entitled family members that will absolutely make your blood boil. Number 1. My dad answered his phone in the middle of Wicked, the Broadway show in New York City. Whoa, wait a second. Like during the show, in front of everybody. Even just doing that in a school play is incredibly rude, but he did it for bloody Broadway. I was completely mortified and I immediately told him to turn it off, as did my mum on the other side of me. He told me and us to be quiet, stating that if he could hear, he would be able to finish the call faster. I pleaded that he at least needs to take it outside, to which he just leaned away from me and finished the call. To top it off, when I brought it up in intermission, he chastised me for ruining a perfectly good experience that he had paid for by daring to demean him in public. Oh, the audacity. The only person that's making you look bad in public is you, bro. What are you doing? Like, yeah, I answered my phone in the middle of a Broadway show, but that's somehow your fault? Nah, this is your fault. And yeah, that's right, it would have been rude enough anywhere, let alone here. Okay, we're off to a good start today. Number 2, near the beginning of the pandemic, my mum was paranoid, so she hoarded toilet paper and cleaning supplies. At one point, we had about 70 rolls of toilet paper at home. Well, she'd take me grocery shopping with her. She wanted to be the first in line so we could get there at 7 a.m. to avoid people. She'd get upset even if we were like the second or third in line. One day she found travel-sized hand sanitizers in a random section of the store and there was no item limit sign, so she took 10. When we got to the checkout, the cashier told her that she could only have 2. Without hesitation, my mum said, "Well, I work as a kindergarten teacher and I need these for my students." She's never worked as a teacher in her entire life. I just kept my mouth shut and I was so happy the mask hid most of my expression because I was flabbergasted by her lie. The cashier let her have 5. I appreciate that my mum wanted to protect us, but she's too much sometimes. Yeah, wow, and to lie in front of you like that as well. Like, oh, being a good role model. I know I shouldn't laugh, but these are bloody ridiculous. Number 3, we were at the rehearsal dinner for one of my uncles at an upscale restaurant in the Chicago suburbs. The waitress went to take my grandfather's plate, but he wasn't done, so he stabbed her in the hand with his fork. Oh my god, what? And berated her for clearing the table while we were still dining. None of the family, there were over 15 people at the table, said a thing and acted like this was normal and acceptable. They didn't even pause in conversation. My mother told us at home to never do that. I was 9, but it was also somehow acceptable for grandpa to assault someone who was just doing their job. It still kills me that he thought it was acceptable to assault a server and berate them for removing a plate, as if they had no feelings and it was permissible to treat them as such. As an adult, I tip any server extremely well, just because I remember sons are biatches like my grandfather, and I know what servers have to put up with on a daily basis. If you're that server, I'm sorry you had to experience my grandfather's abuse. He's no longer around to harm a new generation of servers. Whoa, yeah, that's a lot worse than being an entitled parent. That's disgusting. And then what happened after that? They said stabbed her in the hand with the fork. So like, as in it broke the skin? Oh my god. I know I say it in every episode ever, but what's wrong with people? Number 4, my father-in-law once decided the whole family was going to go to Outback for dinner. 13 people and no reservation. Oh, this one's already so frustrating. He was so furious when they couldn't seat us immediately. The hostess told us they only had booths and they couldn't accommodate a large party at one table, but if we waited a few minutes they would get us some booths next to each other. He got really mad and stormed out. The manager came running out as we were getting into the car and my father-in-law got really smug for a second, but the manager handed him a card and told him to call that number beforehand next time so he could make a reservation. He was so furious, and as we drove away, he kept on complaining that he thought the manager was coming out to give him a gift certificate for his troubles. What? I'm so happy I found this article. Absolutely no consideration for everybody else here, acting like everything revolves around them. And also, you know that if they treat them like this, that they probably treat so many people like this. Yeah, like all of these today, that's so awful. Number 5, I'll tell my mum something and she'll immediately Google it to prove me wrong if it's something that she doesn't agree with. But if I do that, I'm argumentative and always have to be right. I'm in school for nursing and one of the classes I'm taking taking his own drug addictions. I told my mum how cocaine has to be refined with kerosene and gasoline to extract it from coca leaves, and she argued with me for 2 days and said that's only the cheap kind. No, mum, all coca plant leaves are soaked in kerosene or gasoline, regardless of the quality of the end product. Wow, but if you try to fact check something, they say that you always try to be right. We see immature parenting stuff like this all the time. Like, why as a parent do you feel like you need to be right about everything here? Or like everything in general? No one is right about everything and nobody knows everything. And when you try to look like you do know everything, you look like even more of an idiot. It's super counterproductive. Number 6 says, my mum's sister, we were on a plane together with her 5-year-old son sitting between us, and he started kicking the chair in front of him kind of hard. I said, hey buddy, don't do that. And she snapped at me. We paid for these seats. He can do what he wants. Right, as if the person in front of us didn't pay for their seat too. Just because you pay to be somewhere doesn't mean you can behave like a jerk. Yeah, and that's a bloody awful thing to teach your kid. Like, oh, we paid for these plane tickets, so you're allowed to do whatever you want. That's like the epitome of an entitled parent. And guaranteed they'll teach their kids stuff like this, and they'll probably grow up to be super entitled, and then they'll be like, oh, why is my son so bloody entitled? Oh yeah, it was my fault. Number 7, when we were moving, my sister-in-law gave us a list of things she wanted of ours, like our couch. We hadn't offered anything or planned on getting rid of those items, so did they assume that you were gonna replace it or something? Here's a list of all the things of yours that I'd like. For real, where do people get off? Like the audacity to even say something like this. Like, hey, I want your couch and other stuff. Yeah, I know you didn't offer it, but you know, can I have it please? Well, to be fair, they probably wouldn't even say please. Number 8 says, every single restaurant we'd ever go to, my mother would have us move tables, sometimes multiple times, because she felt chilly. She'd ask the server why we were seated under a vent and make a show of coughing and pulling on a sweater in July. It was truly like something out of Seinfeld, and I recall feeling incredibly embarrassed as we traversed the dining area with our drinks. Right, so they wouldn't even do it immediately. They do it after you order your drinks. Yeah, that is embarrassing, and some people, for some reason, feel like if they go anywhere, they like need to complain about something, or they need to make it known that something isn't right. We read about a picky eater yesterday, and they were saying that they'd get food brought out to them and everything would be totally fine, but they'd get it sent back like every single time, like to the point where you're not a picky eater anymore. You're like a giant pain for everybody else, like to the point where it's disruptive and unnecessary. And I get the same vibe from this, like, oh, it's a little bit chilly, so we better move. Oh, this table's even worse, so we need to move again. Like, absolutely no consideration for everybody else that's there. Yeah, that sucks. Number 9 says, my mum came from extreme poverty, but married my dad, who pulled himself up by his bootstraps and became very wealthy, which is a statistical anomaly and not a sociological theory I endorse. My mum, I guess, eventually forgot where she came from and how people from hard places suffer, or perhaps she didn't want to remember. It became a trend where she'd go through a drive-thru of fast food restaurants and she'd verbally abuse the workers. She'd scream and say that they were servants. Oh my god, who needed to wait for her response on her own time? I remember driving through the fast food window and just shaking my head, sobbing and mouthing I'm sorry to the worker, but he was obviously unforgiving of 13-year-old me. I want to find that dude today and explain how mentally ill my mum was, but realistically, no matter her mental health, there's no justification for the slurs that she threw at him. I know I was a kid and I wasn't at fault, but I can't stop the constant guilt. I try to atone for her wrongdoings every day. Yeah, that's straight up revolting. Imagine doing super well and you weren't just comfortable, you were kind of rich. Imagine instead of being grateful for that position, you treat other people like this, calling fast food workers servants. And by the sounds of this, they said a lot worse. This is such a good example of that quote where people say that money makes you more of who you are. Like, if you're a good person, you can be a good person with a lot of money. But if you're an a-hole with money, you can be even more of an a-hole. And yet this person acts like they're better than other people for no good reason and treats people awfully. Yeah, that's not only so cringe, but so sad. Number 10. One night when I visited my mum, she had a little too much wine and she ordered pizza delivery for us. The pizza took forever, and when it did come, they gave us the wrong order. She went ballistic and I was so embarrassed. I mean, I get grumpy when fast food orders get delivered late or aren't right, but I'm still nice to the staff or the drivers. She called them back to tell them that we got the wrong pizza and how useless they were. She said, so we have to wait again another hour for your F up. I was like, oh god, is this the same person? And like the last one we read, there's no justifying behavior like this. Like, yeah, had a little too much wine, but that's not an excuse. Number 11. My grandma went to our local Kroger maybe twice a week or more. store. Usually she'd buy hundreds of dollars in groceries. This particular time she did her usual and her credit card declined because it was maxed out. She then proceeded to yell at the cashier and me for 15 minutes about how they should just charge it anyway because she was going to pay it anyway. We had to leave when I started crying from embarrassment. My grandpa later came back for the groceries with a different card, apologizing the whole time. Wait, what? So they were embarrassed because their card maxed out? So they decided they were going to lash out at everybody else because they felt embarrassed? It's like these people get in a situation like this and they have options in front of them and they always choose the worst possible option. Like, that's not how you handle a situation like this. Oh, what's that? My credit card maxed out and declined? Well, this is somehow your fault? And yelling at the cashier and their grandchild until they cried from embarrassment? Yeah, they should be ashamed. Yeah, these are really wild posts. I didn't expect them to be this bad. Number 12 says, my mum and I made an appointment at a nail salon. We arrived at the nail salon and ended up waiting 10 minutes while the nail techs finished up with their clients. The salon was probably half full. My mum turned to me and said, this is what they do. They lie to you. They say they have appointments to get you in here just to wait. She didn't even whisper and it was very quiet in the salon. A woman immediately came up to us and started my mum's manicure. Yeah, there's a real distinct theme here. Being very unnecessarily rude to employees. Number 13. When I was in college, I decided to switch majors. My mum proceeded to yell at me and tried to make me keep my first major. I reminded her that I was the one paying for my education and she had no authority to make me, an adult, do anything. She told me she had a right because she gave birth to me. I laughed in her face and I walked away. Yeah, wow, these are unbelievable. We're up to number 13 and there's 26 here, so I might go a little bit faster through these. Number 14. One night I stopped at Arby's with my mum and I went through the drive-thru. They forgot a cheese sauce and an order of fries. Instead of heading inside to ask politely to fix it, my mum parked, got out of her car, then headed to the drive-thru window and started beating on the glass, all while there was a car there waiting for their food. What's the thought process here? Is there one? Like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. I'm gonna go and be awful. Yeah, there can't be a thought process because they obviously don't think they're doing anything wrong and they don't think they're being awful. They just think they're entitled to do stuff like this, which is so concerning. Number 15. Whenever my mum has a technology issue, she starts blaming the damn TV or the damn coffee maker, yet refuses to let me help her 95% of the time. The issue is absolutely her fault and could be fixed with the literal tap of a button. She'll even call a maintenance worker to come to the house before letting me try to resolve the problem. Yeah, and that's another issue as well. Some people like complaining and some people like making issues out of nothing. I don't know what that is, but it definitely is real. Like, yeah, you could literally be asking this person and the problem would be solved, but no, everything has to be a big problem. Number 16. My mum is what I call a pre-Karen, a Karen foremother, if you will. One of the worst things she would do is buy clothing at full price, and I'm talking really expensive department store gowns, hide the tags, go out for a night in them, and then return them. I know a lot of people do this still today, but she would also not give a crap about ripping it or tearing it or staining it, and would come back to return it and raise holy hell, claiming that she took it home and saw the item all trashed. She'd yell at the workers, calling them stupid for letting an item out the door like that, lie her ass off and not only get the item returned at full price, but get coupons for later purchases, which she only used on things she'd keep. She won't return anything calmly, so not only is she scamming, but she berates workers for no reason, other than to be a total biatch and make sure her story sticks. Yeah, and for what? So she can wear some clothes? And they don't feel bad about this? Yeah, I can't believe people are like this. Number 17. My dad had COVID symptoms, but refused to take a self-test. Even after my mum tested positive, he also kept going to work as an elementary school bus driver, though he did have to wear a mask at work regardless of whether he was sick or not. He's retired and keeps his income below the level where you'd have to pay taxes, so it's not a money issue. I think he has a misguided loyalty to work, even though nobody would have wanted him there if they knew. I also think he was worried that it would be inconvenient. He just brazened through no matter how much we yelled at him. God, who is this guy? Captain Irresponsible? You're an elementary school bus driver, going on there while you probably have COVID. Yeah, what? All because of their loyalty to work? Oh, that's so infuriating. Number 18. My mum always thinks she's entitled to my money because she birthed and raised me. I was giving her half of my paychecks from the time I was 18 until I was 29 when I bought my own house. I was living with her, so it was fine that I had to pitch in and everything. But here's the kicker. Anytime I got any sort of extra money, she thinks she deserves some of it. A few years ago, I got a $1,500 check from my mortgage company. She demanded that I give her half, which I refused. Good thing, because the check was sent as a mistake and they needed me to pay the money back. Recently, I got a surprise bonus bonus at work. My mum again demanded I give her half because I owe her for raising me. Now I try to keep my income and raises and bonuses a secret so she doesn't demand money from me. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. You can't tell them anything about money. Like, money? Give you some money? No, sorry, I don't have any. You're very mistaken, mum. I don't have any money to give you. Number 19. My military army father was on leave from deployment and wanted to take his 4 kids to the YMCA to go swimming. Despite the fact that he didn't have a membership, my mother was a member and had previously enrolled us in summer camps there. So we, the kids, were very familiar with their policies and told him repeatedly before we went that they didn't allow anyone in without a membership. He insisted this was not the case and took us anyway. Of course, they would not let us in without a membership and he refused to sign up for one. To our embarrassment, he proceeded to yell at the poor teenage employee that he could not believe they would treat a member of the armed services this way, though he was the one asking for special treatment. Yeah, I don't have anything to say. The bloody audacity. Number 20. We could never convince my mum that servers only made a couple of dollars an hour in pay. She thought they were undereducated and or stupid and making too much money for their skills. If she could keep my father from seeing, she would pick up all or part of their tips on the way out. Wait, like stealing from the tip jar or something? So they're an entitled thief? Oh, right when you think it doesn't get any worse, it does. I'm impressed by how bad these are. Bad as in entitled and infuriating. It must have been an Ask Reddit post or something. Number 21. My mum always told me to watch how my dates treat waiters or waitresses because it can reveal a lot about their character. My uncle will always talk down to waitresses and can be very handsy. One time I remember him grabbing a girl to pull her on his lap. She was a teenager and we were maybe a group of 11 people. I've never seen anyone move so fast to get out of a room. Now his wife, my aunt, will send all of her food back. Salads, drinks, half an entree, glasses of wine, whatever. We can order the same dish and mine'll taste fine, but hers is somehow ruined. It's an absolute nightmare to go out with them. Oh, they sound awful. Ew, no, don't go anywhere near these people. So yeah, the uncle, revolting, and the aunt is what we were talking about earlier, where people feel like they need to make an issue whenever they go somewhere. Like, yeah, guaranteed there's nothing wrong with the food, but they send it back anyway. That's annoying enough, let alone the rest of this post. Number 22 says, my dad grew up in a very traditional, sexist home and unfortunately treats my mum almost like a servant. He's very entitled to her labors and he doesn't show her much gratitude. For example, my mum will prepare dinner for everyone and he'll scoff at it if he has something that he doesn't like in it, like beans. He'll then get up and microwave himself a frozen meal instead. He also never helps make dinner, doesn't help clean up afterwards, and leaves his dishes all over the house. What's worse is that he does this sort of stuff in front of guests. When my husband and I visit my parents' house, I almost die of secondhand embarrassment. Wow, that sucks. Are they a good person and a good partner the rest of the time? Or do they suck as much as it sounds like? Like, yeah, no offense, but if it's the second one, people deserve better than a partner like this. And also, even if you did grow up in a very traditional sort of home, like, again, it's not an excuse to be a total bloody a-hole. Number 23 says, my brother recently moved out of state. When he came back to visit, he wanted to go out to lunch with our family and our mum got weird. My brother asked us if we'd be okay to go to a local place that he missed, and my mum got really passive-aggressive about the whole thing. She kept saying it was up to my brother and she didn't really care where we went, but then she kept bringing up reasons that she wanted to go somewhere else. It culminated with her accusing my brother of lacking compassion, telling us that we didn't want to celebrate her birthday, which was several months after my brother's visit. They're bringing up their birthday months later and telling us that she was struggling with her mortality, all because my brother asked to go to a restaurant that he missed. Later, when I tried to talk to her about stuff, she told me our relationship wasn't salvageable since I had deemed it toxic. I've started therapy and my therapist suggested that my mum might be a narcissist. I think she might be right. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. This has been so good. We've only got a couple more. Number 25. My biological dad is a very interesting person. One time we were on holiday in his hometown at a restaurant where his dad used to work at. I was probably about 11 at the time and he complained to the manager about the food. It ended up being a full-on yelling match with the manager and a couple of other employees. I was absolutely mortified and I just stood there awkwardly. He then continued to ramble on about poor customer service and quality of food, and he said it was a much better restaurant when his father had worked there. He continued to go on and on about how rude they were on the car ride home, and for a solid 2 or 3 hours after we got home, I sat there on the couch listening to him complain, and I thought, wow, this dude is so petty and entitled. Anyway, I haven't had contact with him since I was 14, so yeah, he was a great dad. Yeah, wow, that's so sad. And I'm sure that people like this don't realize the effect that they have on everybody else. Like, if you only knew how much this upset everybody. The last one, number 26. My parents went on their first cruise in their 60s. It was cheap, so it was likely more crowded and not as high-end as they thought it would be. They complained about everything, the amount of food everyone else on the ship ate, having to wait in line, children doing childish stuff like running around the ship, etc. They seem to forget that some people can't afford anything more than this type of cruise. I don't know when my parents turned into people who they're above the rules they taught us as kids, but it's only gotten worse since. Okay, yeah, that definitely is enough for today. So sad, so frustrating, and so bloody entitled. Let's read something wholesome. Being a pet owner is like being a sugar daddy. You waste all your money on keeping them happy, and the only thing they do is look cute and give you attention sometimes. Yeah, and huge emphasis on the sometimes. Jin is like the epitome of this. I love him so much, and I know he loves me, but he's not that affectionate, and he'll only give you attention when he wants to, and it is the way it is, but it kind of makes me sad. He's so cute though. When you accidentally say love you to your best friend and they say it back, oh, that's so cute. Oh, I love you too, bestie. That's so adorable. Like, oh, that was an accident, but it was beautiful. Good, you've scrolled for so long, you've reached the sanctum of the coned cats. They wish you a nice life. Oh my god, the coned cats are amazing. And thank you, I wish you a nice life as well. Beautiful fluffy fellas. And once again, thank you for watching, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful time. And if you did and you want to see more Entitled Parents episodes, make sure you like and subscribe. And the comment of the day today goes to the cat herd. Time to sit down with my coffee and enjoy the morning, Vincey. You're too kind. I really appreciate the support, and I hope you enjoyed the episode. These are so fun to make. I'm so glad you guys enjoy them. There's many, many, many more to come. And with that being said, make sure you look after yourself and make sure you have a beautiful, amazing rest of your day. And you know what I'm about to say because I say it every single day. Bye!